Like many first-time parents, when my partner and I discovered that I was pregnant, we were ecstatic. As a super planner with a strong streak of crunchiness and a dash of anti-authoritarianism, I immediately began to explore alternative birth options, hoping for a natural birth surrounded by people I knew and trusted. I read and watched birth stories online that spoke messages of empowerment and reminded me that my body was strong and fully capable of birthing a baby. I carefully wrote out my birth plan, which outlined a water birth with my husband, my midwife, and a doula by my side. Despite all of my careful planning, 6 days after my due date and after over 40 hours of labor and a baby that hadn't descended, I found myself on an operating table feeling like I had utterly failed. The disbelief and disappointment that grew in the days following my son's birth by cesarean were crippling. I couldn't speak about it without tears. I felt broken and traumatized. The birth stories that I had once found empowering now triggered fears of failure. I hadn't felt empowered. I felt like at every turn, choices had been taken away from me, decisions made without me. I wondered why no one had warned me of what was coming and why no one seemed to talk about what happens when carefully laid birth plans go awry. Well-meaning people offered support by saying that I should be thankful that he was healthy. And though I knew what they meant, it felt like the implied message was that my experience as the birthing mother didn't matter as long as my child was healthy. Over the months following his birth, as he grew into a curious and active little person, the pain of the experience subsided. But when, 2 years later, I became pregnant again, all of the disappointment I had felt came flooding back. My defense mechanism was, again, to plan. This time for a home birth, an act reclaiming my agency in the birth process and what I hoped was my best chance for a VBAC, or a vaginal birth after cesarean. When I went into labor in the early hours of a warm summer day, a week before my due date, I felt calm and in charge of my own body. I labored through contractions, reading to my son in the spaces between them. We inflated a birth pool in our living room and played games and ate ice cream while we waited for labor to intensify. When it did, and my midwife and doula arrived, they helped me to be present to my contractions and to push away thoughts of self-doubt. But after 36 hours, my baby again wasn't descending. I eventually made the decision to transfer to the hospital, where we all hoped I would be able to deliver the baby after a little pain relief and rest. That is not the route things took once we arrived at the hospital. After 7 hours of full dilation, I prepared for my second cesarean. And yet, despite the similar outcome, I felt completely different. My whole birth team convened by my hospital bed and asked me what my body was telling me. I was able to express my fears to the surgeon, who assured me that he would do his best to give me the birth experience I desired, that I would be able to see my baby immediately, that he would talk me through the procedure, and that my midwife and husband would be by my side. My daughter was born a few hours later, and as I held and nursed her minutes after, I felt truly empowered. It felt natural. My experiences taught me that there are as many pathways that lead to the birth of a child as there are unique people in this world. Both of my births changed my life in big and small ways. I walked through extreme joy and struggle. I learned what it meant to rely on others and to trust my body. And as my babies were born, I too was born into motherhood.